Welcome to our channel. I'm going to be sharing a very unique and interesting story. So my name is Serah Muindi. I'm the founder of Hopewell Foundation, which we will soon rebrand. Hopewell Foundation currently runs 3 projects. Sema Tu is one of the projects, and that's the reason that I'm here today. So Sema Tu is a Kiswahili word that means speak up, just say it. Whatever it is that you wanted to say, it's okay, just go ahead and say it. So I'm going to tell you a bit of a story about my personal experience and why Sema Tu started as a project. So I have 2 kids. One is currently 9, the other one is currently 2.5. When I had my second child, I got postpartum depression, and many people don't know this because shockingly I'm actually a psychologist, but that doesn't mean that because I'm a psychologist I cannot have a mental health concern. So I had postpartum blues. Postpartum blues are symptoms that you experience after delivering a baby, and that normally affect your ability to connect with your baby, and they affect your ability to sometimes even love your baby and even nurture them. So after my initial pregnancy, the pregnancy with my firstborn daughter, which was a CS, because she had developed complications. She had fetal distress, which means that she got tired of waiting for my cervix to open so that she could be born, and so I had an emergency cesarean section for my first child. So with my second child I chose, so it's called an elective CS. So when you choose to have a cesarean section done instead of a vaginal birth, then it's called an elective cesarean section. So I chose an elective CS because I didn't want my second child to experience what my first child had experienced. And surprisingly, after her pregnancy and after her birth, I had symptoms such as incessant crying. Like I just could not stop crying. I was so moody. I remember being so sad at the hospital. After my delivery, I just got this gush of sad emotions. I'd be so upset when my husband would come and see the baby, or when he would be leaving, I'd just start crying. I was so emotional. I remember when the doctor that had delivered my baby, he's actually my OBGYN, that's an obstetrician gynecologist. So my OBGYN had been treating me for about 3 to 5 years. So of course he knows my baseline, he knows my emotional state, my mental state, because I'd seen him consistently for quite a number of years. And I remember him coming to see me and being concerned, but he didn't say anything to me. I got to know all this quite later on. So I remember after 2 days, on the 3rd day, because when you have a CS, you should actually start walking as soon as possible. Not as soon as you're not feeling pain, as soon as possible, because that helps your wound to heal. So after my CS, the next hours later, I believe, or the next day, I was already walking so that I could then, the CS would heal, the wound would heal. And so on the 3rd day, I believe, or the 3rd day, I think, the OBGYN discharged us from hospital, and he said, I think you should go home, and then you'll come back for a review after. It was supposed to be, I think, 5 days, just to check if the wound was healing well, and then a week later, 2 weeks later, like that. So the symptoms I had been experiencing, the first was I was so moody, and I would cry uncontrollably, and I felt such an overwhelming sense of sadness, and I did not want to see the baby. Like when my daughter would cry, I would call the nurse to come and take her, to come and check why she's crying, to come and just address whatever the issue that is making her fussy. So the most that I was doing the first 2 days when I was in hospital was breastfeeding only. And so putting the baby on the sun, because of jaundice, sometimes babies develop it, and things like that, washing the baby, all of those things. I was really, really, really disconnected from the baby. And then when we went home, the first week was insane for my family and my housekeeper. It was insane, guys. I remember them really, really struggling to understand what was happening with me, because I would spend all my day in the bed, all of it in the bed. When food is ready, I'd get up, eat, go back to sleep, just breastfeed the baby. If she's crying, I would have my nanny help me with her. And so I felt there was that growing disconnect, but I stayed home. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't start therapy. Nothing happened for those first few days, the first 7 days or so. But I remember a few days when later, I think I went for the first review, I think like 5 days afterwards, and the doctor checked on me. He saw I was doing fairly okay. And then we went back home. That day we went with my nanny and my baby and my husband as well. Then I think like 2 weeks later, I went back for my other review, my next review. And I remember the doctor looking at me and saying, "Serah, did you know that you had postpartum blues?" And I asked him, "Really? You mean?" And he was like, "Yes, you did." And him and my husband had actually had a conversation about having me admitted or having a psychiatric consult in case I did not stabilize, or in case the symptoms that I was experiencing were getting worse. And so this is information that I was now getting to know later, much, much later, from my husband. But the OBGYN, the doctor told me, "You actually had postpartum blues, but I think you're feeling better." Because I remember that day I actually was smiling when we were in the consultation room, which had not happened for the previous appointment that I had gone for. And so I could also feel like I was coming back to myself, to my normal, happy, jovial, engaged self. But I did not notice that I had disengaged, I was disconnected, I was emotional. I was not cognizant, I wasn't aware of the symptoms that I was actually presenting with. So, but when I started to get back into my normal mood, into being happy, into smiling, into laughing, into talking to people, I'm generally outgoing. I'm actually introverted, but I'm generally quite outgoing and outspoken and very, very engaging when we talk with people. So when I started to get back to that, I now became cognizant that I was now starting to feel more and more like myself. So that was my personal experience with postpartum blues and postpartum depression. And now let me tell you the reason that I was telling you about my story is because for many women, first of all, who have postpartum depression and many other mental health concerns, these conversations rarely happen. People don't talk. People don't say how they are doing. You can notice even my husband and the doctor talked about my mental health on their own and were coming up with a treatment plan by themselves. And so you'll realize that people don't speak up about mental health. Watu wasemi nini inaendelea. I think I'll put like an interpretation down here. And so Sema Tu is a project to tell the stories of people like my story. And I want to invite you to also come on board and tell your story. The reason that we are telling our stories is to demystify mental health, is to normalize mental health concerns, is to normalize mental health illnesses, is to normalize and equip other people with the knowledge and the skills to be able to help us and help each other when there's an issue. So that's the reason why we are doing Sema Tu, is to help us break the stigma around mental health. So this project is geared towards telling your story, telling my story, telling our story to break the stigma around mental health. If you would love to be part of this project, if you'd love to help with things like photography, videography, transcribing content, editing the videos, doing the production, the post-production, if these are things that you feel like are contributions that you would want to make, please just leave a comment below. I'm going to also put the email address for this project on the description of this video. You can also send us an email and let us know what kind of way you'd like to volunteer. If you'd like to donate money, if you'd like to donate your skill set, you can definitely reach out and tell me and tell us. We will respond and we will engage with you so that we see how well to collaborate. So this video marks the very, very beginning and the launch of Sema Tu, a project by Hopewell Foundation. I will see you guys again, hopefully soon. More probably you will next see the story of someone else who might be just like you.